So, John, before we started recording, you were talking to me about mobility as a service. And why don't you introduce that as a concept and tell me a little bit about why that's exciting?
Sure. Mobility as a service is, how do I get myself or my traveling companions, family, from where I am to where I want to be efficiently, safely, and sustainably? So cities have huge congestion issues. There's climate change. The personal vehicle, even if it's electric, may not be the best vehicle or the best means always to go from point A to point B. So mobility as a service, I'll define as, how do people and the community move goods and services and people from point A to point B? And the catch-all term is mobility as a service. And again, sometimes, and it includes many different types of transit forms. So this is a bit of a stretch from an example standpoint, but I think you'll catch it. So I start off on my bicycle because I'm a road warrior and I'm staying healthy because I want to do a triathlon. So I jump on my bicycle and I bicycle to a public sector transit stop. I jump on a bus, I go to the train station, I jump on the train takes me directly underneath the airport, I get out and I move on my way to my gate. So I know and manage through mobility as a service that my bike is charged up because it's electric. It's a commons use bike, so it's something that goes into a stall. And it's something that might be charged by the city because I used it for a small monetary fee because I get some kind of credit for being green. I know that the bus is on time. I don't worry about the bus. I just get off my bike and walk onto the bus. It then just takes off. Ditto when it comes to the bus and the train connection. And I know before I start that taking these different modes of transit will take exactly 45 minutes. So I am able to do this consistently. The mobility as a service allows me to cross both public sector transit and private sector transit for a fee. It's all done, it's all accounted for, the appropriate taxes are paid, and the appropriate credit is given to me. So I'll define that as mobility as a service. So the more realistic one now, when it comes to public transit today, is I'm taking a public transit that has the appropriate social distancing. I could take private transit, but it's only electric vehicle, et cetera, et cetera. So these are all things that the airport has a huge stake in as a agency of the greater good, and requires massive coordination and data sharing across all these different agencies and entities, private and public. So I think you'll see that grow pandemic-wise and post-pandemic-wise, and it will become the norm in almost all regional areas in the world.
So the concept is a kind of linked up, seamless, multiple transit for multiple provider of transit coming together to provide one service to a traveller who just wants to get from A to B, and without having to figure out different timetables, different fares, different different combinations of tickets, of saver tickets, of monthly passes, whatever it is. Just being able to kind of focus on, right, I know I can walk out my door at 3 p.m. and I can get to my destination at 3:45, and it doesn't matter. I don't have to worry too much about all of the different elements of it because I'm being provided to as one service. That's the concept, is unifying that transit. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. You got it exactly. Well said. And I think there's two dynamics, right? There is time and there is cost. So the faster I go from point A to point B, probably the more it'll cost. Not necessarily, but the more it'll cost. If time is not of priority to me, then I should expect a lower cost. Again, not always true, but those are the two dynamics that you as the region and the greater good determine this is how you're going to incent people to do one type of transit versus another. And the same could be true for goods, not necessarily people.
That's really interesting. So what do we have to do? So let's take it back to airports again. Very briefly, on a practical level, is there anything that people working in the airport industry can do to help make sure that they're progressing things in the right way?
Yeah, I think so. It combines both technology and organizational structure. So if you assume that customer journey is one of the organizing principles now going forward, you'll need a set of technology platforms that support it. So I would round them all into something called a collaboration platform. There are a number of them out there. It doesn't matter which one you pick. There's pros and cons to everything. So just pick a collaboration platform, and from a senior management perspective, use it. So the CEO, managing director, all of the C-level support people, the entire organization needs to be on that collaboration platform, focusing on customer journey. And then what you want to be able to do is discuss from a stakeholder standpoint, not only airport people, but all the external stakeholders that make that journey either successful, safer, more efficient, more revenue generating. And that then allows people to be accountable. So it's not only collaborating on a per project basis, but it's also showing people that they have a real stake in it and they have to-dos. So the collaboration platform and then holding people accountable to some improvement that is measured by the appropriate KPIs really will go a long way in reorienting the organization so it isn't siloed, as we spoke about a moment ago, but is actually focused in a team toward improving and continuously improving that customer journey.
That sounds great. And it's also a way of getting consensus as well across all the different, what we don't want to be silos, or across all the different departments. You know, if you see where the organization as a whole is headed and you've got these agreed steps for change, you know, it's up to the individual departments then to make sure that their vision for their department is part of that, isn't it? And it's a way of getting that consensus and making sure that that the organization is moving ahead together.
No, absolutely true. And I think really important, when you make a mistake and something doesn't go right, you can go back and look at it. So you have a record of, well, we thought we were doing the right thing at that moment in time. It turns out that we didn't get the result that we anticipated. Where did we go wrong? So it's really useful from the standpoint of correcting and not repeating the same mistakes.
That kind of fail fast mentality isn't normally something we associate with airports as a huge kind of piece of infrastructure and tend to be fairly slow moving organizations. But when you look at it like that, the best way to learn is to fail and then figure out what you did wrong and then make sure you don't do it again the next time you try to take a step forward. In terms of the technology, you said it didn't matter which collaboration platform you pick. Have you got some examples of stuff that works for you or things that you like?
Without mentioning vendor, well, I'll mention vendor names. Microsoft Teams is a good platform. So is the Slack platform now that it's incorporated into Salesforce. Cisco has a similar platform. Atlassian has a set of platforms as well that kind of came out of the developer ranks. There's probably 4 or 5 out there that you could take a look at. And I think it really is driven by the kind of artifacts and documents that you utilize to capture the thought processes, how many stakeholders that are not airport employees per se that are going to be included into it. You want something that allows people to join a particular project or effort quickly without a lot of effort, but securely, so that there's no issues with that, and that can leave. So you want to onboard quickly and then offboard quickly from a project executive program manager perspective. And a lot of the platforms do that, some a little bit better than others, and you want to do it securely so that you have a written record of it. So it's sharing documents quickly and easily, no matter where they are in the world, doing it securely, and then being able to have a running log to go back and look at, we decided at this moment in time to do this thing, and it was wildly successful, so now let's replicate it. Or maybe it wasn't so successful. Where did we go wrong so we don't replicate the error going forward?
Yeah, it's that idea that no matter what your function in an organization, you can just quickly check in and see where a project is up to in terms of progress. that's something we find useful in our developer world, as you mentioned. What does an airport have to do when they're saying, okay, that sounds great, John, I love all of those concepts, what's my next step? So when I'm next thinking about bringing on a new system for parking or whatever it might be, what have I got to do? How do I make this happen, and what do I have to change?
Sure. I think the biggest change, clearly these have to be procured, and procurement is kind of the most important thing, frankly, at the beginning of the project. So I would ask and recommend that you use what I call business outcome-based procurement. So when you do your tender, when you do your RFP, when you do your RFQ, when you buy the system, you want a business outcome-based procurement cycle. So however you break down the purchases, you want to look at the end result and tell the suppliers that this is the result that they're going to be held accountable for. Look for metrics that are used to get you to your end result, and then metrics that will allow you to maintain the end result. So usually people think about KPIs as the latter, things that will keep things up and running. But you want KPIs or metrics that get you to that point as well. So I want an outcome of X. I want to ensure that my reservation system can segment my parkers a particular way, and show me how we're going to get there. Show me how you're going to maintain that. And those are the metrics that you want. So business outcome based. Don't tell people how to do it. Tell them what you want. We have in the past told people how to do it in addition to what we want, which they're smarter than we are. So any particular supplier of a particular solution, if they're good in the marketplace, know far more than we as an airport about that solution. So let's tell them exactly what we want as a business, and then let them tell us how they're going to do it. And we can say, that works, that's great, but don't tell them how to do it. Tell them what you want.
Makes sense. I suppose that's the first small step in embracing technologies that are out there. Listen, John, I think I've taken enough of your valuable time. It's been really great to talk to you, and
Good.
I really appreciate your thoughts. I really appreciate the amount of thinking you've done on all this is fantastic, and it's good to see someone who is as interested in airports and airport parking as we are over here. So I just want to say thank you very much, John Payne, and thank you for listening or watching, however you're consuming this, and there'll be another one along shortly. Thanks a lot, John.
Thank you very much. Bye.